I purposely went for a very generic introduction, which for John should be nothing new. His introductions are very generic most weeks. SAD can mean two things when you make it something that is just the initials, or at least two things in my vocabulary at least. Maybe somebody can come up with even more things. But it is two things that came up in my life, especially when I was up in Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Parks. One is standard American diet. Anybody ever heard of it used that way? It's a common way of describing the greasy American diet of eating fast food, lots of meat and potatoes, lots of hamburgers, steaks, French fries, spaghetti, pasta, all of those things in life. That's the standard American diet. You are going to generally carb up, eat a lot, very little portion control, and put on a lot of weight. That's the standard American diet. The other version of SAD, or SAD, is seasonal affective disorder. How many of you have heard of that version of SAD? That version of SAD is something that is coming out more often these days and has made it more to the lexicon. Both of those made it out into my lexicon when I lived up in Wyoming, because up in Wyoming, we happen to live further north. It happens to live in a climate that is very cold, very dark, and you tend to live in places where you do not see the sunshine for long periods of the year. So unless you live somewhere where you can do something about it, you are affected by seasonal affective disorder. Especially back then, in my early 20s, the only lights were these type of lights just about everywhere, which are yellow fluorescents, which do not help. So a little bit about seasonal affective disorder. It is depression. It is not clinical depression, which people hear about. It is its own form of depression. It is diagnosed by a psychiatrist. It is on the psychiatric manual under the I will say it right, SM5 manual. I wanted to make sure I get all the letters right. It is an actual diagnosed form of depression. It is something that can be treated, but it is something that is normally on top of depression or on top of somebody's anxiety that they already have, or on top of a mental health disorder that they already have, or a substance abuse disorder that they already have. Something that makes it already worse. It doesn't affect that many people, actually. As much as you do hear about it these days, you'd think it affected a lot of the population. And it might affect more. It's only diagnosed in 5 to 10% of the population. And as usual, it's mostly women. And A reason for that is it is affected by our hormones. Our hormone cycles will affect it, just like it affects the serotonin and the melatonin that's naturally produced in our bodies. It generally starts in late October when the leaves are falling and everything looks beautiful outside. You see all those beautiful colors, all the leaves are falling. You think, oh, it's beautiful to be outside. I'll enjoy the pumpkins and the fall colors and everything else. But the colors are changing. The nights are falling shorter. The nights are falling longer. The days are falling shorter. It's getting colder. And your body's making more melatonin and less serotonin. And so your body's getting into that cycle already. By January and February, your body's fully into the cycle of it. And if you have a full-on case, it's not going to get out of it until at least mid to late May. You're not going to get out of being sad until May and into June. And some people, myself included, go through summer sad. Sad is year-round, not just seasonal. And you go through sad through summer. It's not as acute. You go through more of a drastic kick in the butt come October, but it will still affect you during the summer, and you need extra melatonin to make it through summer, because you don't make the melatonin you need during summer anymore, because your body's out of whack now from everything it does. So I've thrown a lot of things at you, some different things about SAD and how it works. Now I want to hear what questions you might have and what you might want to know about SAD, or some things you might be confused about SAD and how it works out there.
I would like a description of serotonin, and melatonin.
Okay. Melatonin is made in your body to help you sleep. And so in the winter time, your body goes into a hibernation mode naturally, just like animals. And so your body actually, when it starts getting longer hours of darkness, makes more melatonin. So when you live closer to the equators, your body actually makes even more melatonin, which in some bodies, most bodies, it's regulated not to make too much melatonin, so you don't go into overdrive and make too much and put you to sleep for really long hours and you sleep too much. But those with SAD will make an overdrive of melatonin, and their bodies will just sleep long, long hours. They'll sleep for over 12 hours a day and think nothing of it, and just sleep the day away. Serotonin is what your body makes in the brain to help you feel better. It's your feel-good drug. It's what the doctors give you when you are depressed, to give you that happy feeling. It's what is caused in your body when you take heroin or cocaine. It reacts and causes the serotonin receptors in your brain to stimulate and give you that happy feeling, and give you that feeling to want to smile and be engaged and want to do things and be involved and be a part of what's going on. So those are the receptors that you want working, and they start shutting down when it starts getting dark and in the winter time. And so that's why people a lot of times start getting less active. And so getting out in the sunshine will help stimulate those and get those acting again. So like you do, getting out and riding your bike, getting out and running, those are things that will get those serotonin receptors going.
Is there something we can do with our diet that will offset some of those impacts?
The biggest thing with your diet is vitamin D. Vitamin D won't stay in your body. It goes out of your body very quickly. It is a very hard vitamin to take because it is not a vitamin that is easily found in food. You will find if you go searching for it. But if you can't go out and get it in sunlight very much, then vitamin D is the one you can take through supplements. You can also take it through mushrooms. It's very popular in mushrooms. That's one of the biggest sources of it. So putting it in sauteed mushrooms, putting it in mushroom burgers, putting it in mushroom sauces. It's one of the biggest ways I found to add it to my foods. There are a few other, your milk is another common way to get your vitamin D. Spinach is another source of vitamin D. But your biggest source of food to get it is vitamin D for supplements. John?
The SAD, seasonal disorder, I know that one time they were using tanning beds, light therapy,
Light.
but then cancer and all that, so are they using anything like that to treat it?
Not tanning beds, but light therapy. You want to use sunlight. So now what they've finally done is what they didn't have when I first got it in the early 20s, is they had at first the old blue lights. Remember when they first came out with the blue lights back then? I know Alfie will never remember this, but they did used to have lights that were in those days, but now they have what they call the natural daylight lights, light bulbs, and those are what you want. And you can put them in just during the winter time if you want, or you can put them in year round. Because of my autism and because of my SADs, I put them in year round. Rick can tell you we have them all through our house. So our whole house is daylight light bulbs. And you can choose the level of how high you want your light, but those will give you the light therapy. And you can actually get ones that sit right over where you sit and read and write and everything to get them more concentrated. If your whole roommates and everything don't want that much light, you can concentrate it right on your workstation or where you sit and do your work, and that does a lot of help. And this isn't quack medicine. This comes from Mayo, Johns Hopkins, the NIMH, which is the National Institute of Mental Health. This comes from the American Psychiatric Association. This is tested medicine that has been around for a long time. It is something that is seasonal. You can go without going in for treatment. You don't need to go see a doctor if you don't want to. You can treat it yourself. It does do better with treatment though. I will tell you from personal experience and others I know, you do better. You can get talk therapy, light therapy, like John said, like Kathy was saying, get food, exercise, getting out in the sunlight and getting sunshine. All of those things are helpful ways to be able to take care of this type of disorder, this sad disorder. I hope you got a little bit of information and it can help yourself or anybody you know that you think might be able to use this information going forward. Thanks.